6:15 in the morning. Today is Friday the 31st of January 2013. This is Norwich bus station, and as you can see I'm here far too early, and there is the waiting room, closed until 7 o'clock, as of course I would expect when the first bus doesn't actually leave here until about 6:15 or something like that. It's about half an hour before the first bus turns up. And so, as I have got over an hour to spend, I'm going to have a little walk around. You can see what Norwich looks like at dawn. And so anyway, to start off with, so coming up the bus station, and we have one of Norwich's best known companies, the former Norwich Union, now Aviva. I have a dispute with Aviva for a very large sum of money, even by most standards, and they conned me as far as I'm concerned. I'm not paying my insurance on my stolen motorhome, but more about that in another film. And so we'll walk down this street. This is Surrey Street. We'll walk down here, and this is really the centre of Norwich. And we have a clock, and you can see how early it is. This building dates back to the reign of Henry VIII in its origins, and it was built by the Earl of Surrey, and this street's named after him, so it's Surrey Street. It's not just going to Surrey or something like that. Surrey's some way from here. And the Earl of Surrey was actually executed in 1547 for alleged treason. Henry VIII, he died in fact it was anniversary a couple of days ago. I think it was the 29th of January, 30th of January, 1547, can't quite remember the exact date. And he became increasingly suspicious as he got older. He was a tyrant. He was one of the Stalins of this country. In fact, I'm going to go so far as to say he was the most Stalinist king that we had. Mind you, one or two in Scotland also come close to that as well. But anyway, and here, so this is St Stephen's Street, and what we're now going to do, turn right or walk towards where the castle is. So walking up Red Lion Street and extension of St Stephen's Street, we have this the Bell Hotel, which is no longer a hotel but a bank, but it's quite outstanding, I think, inside, considering it's a bank, and many of the original features have been maintained. It's got this very nice glass roof as you go in. Very well done. So there's the castle, but it's not lit up, so you can't see it. For some reason I thought the castle would be lit up. I don't know where I got the idea from. There are floodlights planted on the ground around. Under the castle we've got this thing here, the Castle Mall shopping centre. That's very nicely done. And also it extends under the road here and into the old town, I don't know if I can call it that, which is to the left. And that's where we're going now. In front of me is the Royal Arcade shopping centre from the 19th century. I find these places quite fascinating. I've sort of been a bit interested in real estate, commercial real estate, and to see how the idea of today's retail parks, and this is how it actually started out, and about 150 years ago in fact. So these are the streets of the old town. This is the medieval old town, in fact, built around the castle, not really around the castle, but this side of the castle. Now the castle was built in the reign of William the Conqueror, so it's, or at least he started it. But most of what we see today is actually Victorian. It was a prison for hundreds of years. But all the same, it looks very impressive on the hill, and the amount of work that would have gone into making that hill, because obviously at most castles are artificial hill, that is something I find absolutely outstanding. The labour, of course, that would have been forced to a large extent. Now, in the old part, we have streets here from the 16th century, which are very, very attractive, and there are even individual houses which are much older. But as I always say, a town is just as old as the last big fire, and so the most charming towns are those which have survived the fire. So I'm thinking of places like Celle in Germany, or for example Lavenham here in the United Kingdom. Also places that survived because whatever business they had there sort of moved out, it went bankrupt or what have you. So for example in the case of Lavenham, cloth trade, and suddenly it ceases to be important. So land's not really developed, or wasn't really developed in more recent times, and so it survived. If it survived in the 20th century, then it was protected. There's Norwich Market, and that big light at the back, that's the Forum, which is a cultural centre. It's got a fantastic library. It's one of the best libraries I've ever seen. This is Lobster Lane. I don't know where that name comes from, but it's really quite curious. And there you have a look at a early modern street. So I don't quite know how old this is, but I suspect it's actually from the 17th century. But there's some buildings that seem to be from the 16th century. Let's go out and have a quick look. So there we can see this former pub. It was called the Ironmonger's Arms, and that's 16th century. But here we have St John Madder Market Church, which is almost square, and most of what you can see here today is more than 500 years old. So it was 13th to 14th century church. It was extensively rebuilt between 1490 to 1510, and it's unusual because it's almost square, and it was actually that was done in Victorian times to actually make sure it survived. And even that tower, for example, was extensively built because the tower was unstable. And there's this building here, the Belgian Monk, another very old building. Now, I'd rather take an illogical route around town, so I sort of made this up as I've gone along, and so this isn't really the sort of walk you'd probably do. Of course, not everybody has to sort of fill in time waiting for the bus. And there we have the Lower Goat Lane, and let's have a look at it. So this is Lower Goat Lane, and it used to be called Stonegate, maybe because in Roman times this was a paved road. Of course the word gate is Danish in origin, and so perhaps the Roman paving was still in use by the time the Danes came here several hundred years later. Now various streets here have the word gate in them, and that shows it harks back to Viking times. Same as certainly got in York, got lots of places called Gate there as well. Now I've more or less come back to a place I was at a few minutes ago, which is around Norwich Market. walking up there. We've got some quite curious streets going towards the cathedral, but we won't go there. Sort of straight around the market now. And I was thinking that the last time I did an early morning walk, it was in Sicily. That was in December 2012, almost more than a year ago. There we have a view of the Guildhall, which was built between 1407 and 1412, and used to have various courts. There was a prison in there, obviously there was a church. Effectively it was the town hall. In fact, it was the town hall until 1938 when it got too small, and the big one behind was actually opened. And the king came for the opening of the town hall up there. Anyway, so there's the market again. I'm going to walk back down the street. I'll walk down there. And on the left I'll mention is Gerald's, which is a Norwich firm. And what I'll do now is I'll walk towards the cathedral, and if the castle wasn't lit, maybe the cathedral will be, let's see. Or maybe they'll have it lit at night, I don't know. I love this bird song in the early hours. Something you get that bird singing at night as well. This is a traditional sweet shop here on the left. The thing is, I do go there and I'll buy things, and after scoffing them, I think I shouldn't have done that. You know, when I was a child, I didn't have the money. Now I've got the money, but I no longer have the metabolism. So there's Greg's preparing for the morning. That's a company from Newcastle, where I come from. That was founded in the 1930s. And lots of people think the 1930s were times of poverty, but they weren't. Maybe they were largely I come from Newcastle, but not for the Gregs. So there was a lot of innovation. It was a time of industrial expansion in many areas, in the Midlands, in the south of the United Kingdom, and they would think of things like the Jarrow March, the Hunger Marches, but it wasn't just like that.